Everyone, welcome back. Day 3 for the Selenium live training. Let's take a quick look back at what we did in the earlier sessions and continue with today's session. All right. So team, primarily, we started the day 1. We took a simple application, Swiggy. We wrote a few manual tests and we said, let's automate it using a Selenium IDE. And we quickly learned how to download Selenium IDE and get our tests created. And we've stored them as different projects in our C drive. I've created our folder for SLT November and Swiggy 3. There you go. Open. And we've created all these tests, and each of these tests are executing different things that we did. And what we did was initially just a record and run to know how these tests can get executed, how Selenium identifies them. We then went about understanding a little bit about commands, the various commands that come here, the help of the reference tab and how that can come in, how the target is most critical aspect as to where and which element we have to perform that command on. And when we went through this in the basic structure on day 1, day 2, we went a little bit more in depth. We spoke a lot about element identification and how we can create XPath. So let's take a quick look at that element identification document that we have, team. And primarily the different ways and methodologies through which we can identify different elements. And as you see in this document, the most common ways are ID or name. So if they are available, even a recording or when we write our test, can pick it up. But the other ones, link text, is when you have a hyperlink, you just want to call it by a link, a name. You have partial link text, CSS, tag, class, and XPath. Each of these are attributes, team, and you can easily get them identified. CSS is the only one which is also has little dynamic way to get through CSS. So CSS is your cascading style sheet, team. I personally don't prefer this too much method. The reason is style sheets and CSS can change. And though we still use kind of a way to get to that in an XPath type, we will look at it. There's one session, that CSS element identification video. And I've gone through it also in one of the previous sessions. If time permits, we'll go through them again, team. Our focus will be on XPath. Now, when we spoke about XPath, I was talking how we go about writing XPath, the format of it, understanding object-oriented programming system as a simple thing, like thinking of a car as an example or a human as an example, how we can divide them into what properties they possess to describe or identify, or the actions that we can perform depending on the class of that object or the type of that object. Similarly, we have done something for the human and we said, here is how it is. So different property names and different values. So depending on those, we are identifying real world items. What its automation tool does primarily, like Selenium, is to break down the entire web application into elements. And we call them as simple web elements. It could be a button, text, image, radio, field, anything that you see on a given website. The way we are writing XPath is by saying that the format is very simple. You take the HTML tag, write the format, there you go. If you take the HTML tag and apply the attribute name and value as a combination to it, you are able to identify it. And then we said, let's go identify our each of them our way. And we started writing these, but I don't know if we wrote any XPaths. Didn't we write XPaths yesterday, team? I didn't save them, is it? But we are verifying everything till here. Maybe even though I wrote it as an XPath, when I saved it, it converted it. It didn't need it. So that's how it took it. But we're going to take a deeper look at XPaths, team, today. We'll try and identify the basic difference. Let us at least see the execution of what we did yesterday, the last test. What it does, it tries to sign up and it verifies for invalid email address to show up. That is the test. So let's execute this. Speed is fast. I can reduce it a little bit. Only run this current test. Now, even now, it hasn't come up yet. Why didn't it come up? I said before verifying text, ID is password we wrote. We'll click on it also, correct? Remember? So I'll insert a new command here. Before verifying text, actually, before typing, where is email? Name is email, and this is what we're typing here. This I can delete, and I'll say click on. Oops, sorry, that was so loud. Okay, sorry about that. Click, and we want to click on this ID equals password. So I can just copy the same thing back to step 6 and paste. Treat ID almost like an Excel thing, team. Here's here where you change things and where you want to put it. It is as simple as that. So we're clicking on it and then typing in it. The reason is sometimes you require tabs to be given or specific human actions, team. Unless you do that, you will not be able to click on them. Now, we have the specific test. I just said click is the next one. Let's rerun this and see what happens. All right. Paused? No, I didn't pause anywhere. Did I pause it? Okay. Did I? No, I didn't. Sorry. It still didn't verify. Why? See? Yesterday it did. Correct, team? It ran through so smoothly. Click on it. Password I'm typing. If I hit a tab, it's happening. Let's try it manually, team, and see what is it that is happening. Phone number. Enter your phone number. There you go. Just say KK. If I hit tab, it is fine. If I don't hit tab and I click here, it's still coming. If this click worked correctly, it should have come. What is this on 8? There is this breakpoint, team. When you're clicking on IDE, that will let you pause. Don't worry about too many breakpoints and debugging here. We want to do it within WebDriver. It didn't work for you too? Okay. Yeah, it still didn't work. Is there a tab command? There is send keys, if you remember. And here I can say $key underscore enter and change this to tab. Let's see if I can move this after here, tab. Now, what is this thing? This is the command that I'm using for the first time within IDE. I don't know if this is a new command that came up or not, but I would want to perform this operation. What does it do? Let's look at the reference. It's primarily keystroke commands, team. So anything that you do on your keyboard, space bar, enter, backspace, caps lock, shift lock, any of these will help you to be able to take that, team. Now, let me quickly run this again. Send keys, $key underscore tab. Let's see what happens also. It's not performing keys underscore tab. Why is it not performing? And that is where I think IDE keeps falling apart. It's taken long. Did I put a pause? No. It would take 30 seconds if it's unable to perform something. Unknown command name provided. What? How can it say unknown command name? Let's look at log. Implicit wait 30 seconds. ID equals $key tab. There you go. This is how We're supposed to put it. And let's rerun. Please change the locator to ID equals $key_tab. It's not an identification. Let's see. We'll ask directly Google what is it that it's trying to help us with. Selenium IDE send keys command. It's unable to do that. Send keys and type. Key_tab. There you go. Send keys link. Oh, what is this pattern text? Do we have to give it in target? Let's see. Again, it failed for 30 seconds. Where does send key command come? So, and name equals email. Do they mean this? What do you think, team? How many are following up with me on this? Every command that we've seen so far was fine. And yesterday when we did verify text, that was fine too. And we knew that maybe these commands are not showing up correctly because of the way we are simulating these clicks using this run through Selenium IDE. If I change this, the format of send keys is what I'm trying to see. I've never used it within IDE team. But now let's see if it does any better magic for us. It still did everything. It doesn't show that thing. It just doesn't show it. I'm sure once I click on continue, it will show. So that's the last command that I could do. And let's say inspect this. This is a hyperlink. So maybe I can just say continue or input is there. Type is submit. So team, I'm going to put this HTML code in chat for you all. Copy outer HTML. I want you to give me an XPath for it. All of you, can you take 5 minutes and do this? This is for your continue button. And then we will talk about how to, in application test, how to talk about various, the two different types of XPath and the cheat sheets on it. There you go. What would the XPath be? And for easier assistance on this, I will also keep this handy for you. See, maybe you can look at these as a reference and this as a template. This should help you, team. Can I request everyone to take 2-3 minutes and do it, please? Everyone. The reason I'm very specific is I want to show what is coming from the users, from each of you, and tell you why they will and they may not work. All right? And then, can you be a little bit more active? It's a simple thing. You have to take a minute and try and do this, please. I know some of you may be joining from a smartphone, you couldn't, but at least the others, I request you. All right. Pavan, quick question. Okay, Pavan is there. Team, I've got the responses from a few of you. I'm going to take it and show you and tell me if these are right or not. Now, this is one response, and I'm taking some of the ones which are a little different only from the others. This is 1, 2, 3. Oops, this is 2. 3 is here. 1 second. These chat boxes are pretty annoying. This is what I'm getting from everyone team, and I'm putting them here. Did I miss someone else? Hmm. All right, team. I've taken 8 of them. Are we good with all of them? Can we look at and analyze now? How about the first one, team? Anything suspiciously wrong with that? Nothing. But I don't know why there are extra spaces here. I'm conscious of them. It may work, it may not work. But why those extra spaces? Is it needed? How about third option? What is wrong with number 3, the one highlighted on your screen? Can someone tell me? Anything wrong here? Single colon missing at the end. And team, was it a hurry in which you're sending these? Or we're making genuine mistakes? Because you will not be able to proceed in automation anymore if you cannot fix this. The format has to be intact. What about this? Maybe it will work, maybe it doesn't, but I don't need additional spaces, team. It sometimes can be a killer. How about here? Everyone is talking about type. One of you is talking about style and says display is none. What about this? This is the standard. This seems to be right. Is this correct, team? Eighth one? And I got these from all of you, team. So you can check it out yourself. What are the issues? You cannot, number one, see, how many errors are there in this? Can anyone tell me? N is missing. Anyone, any other error? And don't take it personally, team. I'm not trying to pinpoint everyone, anything. Just that we genuinely make so many mistakes. See, display, the word itself is wrongly worded. Input N is missing. Display, see? Then how do you know if it's working or not? How do we know if anything will work or not? The only way is copy it and paste it. And this is what you will keep doing and using IDE prominently for. Okay? You're going to take an element. Let me reduce the size of this a little and IDE 2. All right. And the next command, before I actually insert new command, and I want to say click. Click on the command that we want to do. And the target that I'm going to click is here. So all I need to do now is say find target in page. Is it found or not? Anything that you put, you have to put it that way, team. I'm back on. So definitely this is not correct. And you need to then keep fixing it. How about this and say find? Still doesn't find. Because what is the one in style? Let us see. Style is this whole thing. Maybe this will change. And then say find. There you go. Change to xPath. Oh, okay. That's fine. Implicit locators. It's basically saying which style it wants us. It's giving a warning. This is fine because once you move into WebDriver, you will just use this. This is now found. What if we run this test team? I know it will not sign up, hopefully, and not do anything. Let's give our own number and stuff. And rerun this now. Oh, why am I changing it here? I have to change it in our test. There we go. And run. Now it has come one after the other. Clicked on it. It's still on step 9. It hasn't gone to step 10. Oh, it won't sign up until OTP entered. Where is it? Oh, that's fine. That's good. That's from the application, right? Perspective. But my question is, did it perform this? Or did it stop? Oh, there you go. It stopped the test out here. It waited for that implicit 30 seconds team. This we can change somewhere. Where was it that we could change that implicit wait and a few details like that? All right. 1 minute team. So that we need to change definitely. And this didn't get recognized. Now let's do one thing. Let us the click at this point didn't work. Why? It's there, right? Let's identify. Let's change this to the way he wants. XPath equals. And this should work. I'm going to copy this and paste. And change this to the other one, like this. Input type is sublet. This should be pretty straightforward. Either should work. Now, if there's any other element which has the same input HTML tag and they have, let us say, the style is display none, then again, it'll be you have duplicate elements. You want to be absolutely sure, team. I'll clear my log so I know if anything happens with this, even if a small error is there, it will throw that pop-up. So it is identifying that element. Now let's delete this and rerun it with this click. Now it's come up. It's unable to click on it. That's strange. Anyone else who's tried the same thing? Why didn't it click here? XPath is there. Let's stop this. It's taking too long. Either it finds it or it doesn't. And I don't need to give it like this. Input a type equals submit. This is correct. There's nothing wrong in this. Now let's rerun this faster. Implicit location duplicate. Changed. Okay. Stop. Let's try once again. Now see, the verified text now should have worked, but without the click. Can we skip this? Then we'll do one thing. Cut, and we'll paste it here. Oops. Paste. Cut. Paste. I'm able to move it easily, team. This is good. So I'm going to verify the text and we're going to try and click here. And he's asking us to use. Let me do one thing, team. Let me put it just as a description for myself and use the select targeting page and see what Selenium IDE brings. It's taking link text, the whole thing. For the outside, link text will definitely work. But why is this not working? Input type equals submit. It is identifying. Do you know why it came up as continue link texting? Do you remember? Will double quotes work? We can try. Single or double quotes should not matter. We use double quotes when we already have a single quote somewhere. See team, when we inspected this element, we got this as the overall HTML. All right. Now in this, if you actually notice clearly, this is how it is. This is A for anchor text, any hyperlink, right? So any link that is clickable will have A, and just the class is telling not only the look, but also where it will point to, where is it that it will go on, click operation. Here it said within that we put this called as display, input is called as continue. It is unable to go, I don't know why identified. But if I take the whole thing, it is nothing but a specific link, just like any other link that we saw, like login. And here is the link as well. What is the difference between this hyperlink and the other one? The word is continue, the word is login. Here, it's got an input to it, which is submitting a form. Whenever we have a form and we want to submit any fields in it, then it comes up as inspect. So for that specific form submission team, if you look at this form, it will use submit as a button. Now, we tried using the regular xPath. Now we'll use the link text and see if this works. Same test with link text. Click here. All this is good. Let's try this. Verified text. Why did it fail? It failed because maybe value invalid email address failed. Look at the strategy. This I changed yesterday, if you remember. That is why it was changing. Now I remember. / what was this team? Inspect that invalid email address. Where is it? Label. Outer HTML. Put it here. Now it should work for sure. Now I know it's an label, and this is what I'm looking at, the property for. So I'll use the xPath called label here. Open square brackets @ for equals single quotes email. Okay. How did we do this one, team? Yesterday when we saved this test, I believe this is how it was saved as. If my text is visible here, it should be able to identify it. If it did not identify, it would have thrown the log error. Let me clear, or the pop-up. Okay, so now this is identified by using label for email. This was what was failing, I believe, after the verification came. Click link text, worked fine. Now, let me see if this works, and then I'll explain you once again, team. Let's do a little slow if I can. Okay, send keys also worked, but nothing really happened in it. Now what happened? Actual value is email. I'm going to take the same thing, day 4, run it in WebDriver, team. This is so troubling. What is it saying? Actual value, email, is what it got. Why will it get email? There's something else like this. That is the problem, team. For email, I'm going to search the whole code. F12. Control F. Control V. What? Where else is that for email? I'm just trying to search, team. It is not friendly enough for me to show everything. Let's do one. Prepaid source. For equals. Oh, now it won't show because it's not there. Let me get back to this in a second. Is there app? App is not here. This one. For equals, I just have one for equals location right now. It is not showing when the pop-up came up. Should we try with valid mail ID? Yeah, we can. See, the whole point for us right now, team, is to try and identify everything correctly. Now it is saying for email, and it is identifying that nicely without an error here. Why is it not doing it during the run? Okay, what if I write xPath equals? It got a different value. ID, password. Let's run again. See how many times we're running for one change. And that is where a lot of automation time gets spent. You cannot avoid it. One element after one element we keep doing. Now it worked. Just that whatever I gave. Where was that? Verified text, xPath with value invalid email address. Okay, now it's got it. CT. If I run the same test very super fast, will it fail? This is where we have to really keep digging into ourselves. What is happening? What is happening? What all did we do here, team? Do you think the send case is important? Now let's copy this, duplicate this. Test, duplicate, rename, sign up, verify. All right, that is the name I'm giving to it. And in this, I just want to delete the send keys. I don't think it is essential anymore, though it worked. Actually, let's keep it, team. It's good for your reference. Can I undo? I cannot undo. I'm sorry. Another 15 minutes, team. Once I kind of do this everything and talk about xPath, where does everything come into picture? You'll have a total clarity on what's next coming up. All right. Let's take a quick look at what we did and what we executed first. All right. So the first command was opening, click on link text sign up. And that is how we were getting into till here. Now, being able to fill the fields in the form, not a problem. We were interested in field validations. When we enter an incorrect password, I want it to show me that, hey, invalid email address has been entered. And it is happening right after typing it. So if I move this up and down, will it affect or not is what I want to see. So I copied the same test. I just did a duplicate. So I have the original there. And I deleted one command here called the send keys. So far, team, if you look at, there are only 5 or 6 commands that we have exposed ourselves to. And most of our exposure will be through these basic commands. Open, click, type, send keys, verify text. What else is there? Close. There are very, very simple commands like these, team. It is all about these commands and how we integrate them into our scripts. Most important was the target, where we spent a lot of time. Why? To identify elements correctly. If there is no ID or name, then what do we do? If there is no link text, then what do we do? Finally, I had to write this XPath. Now, what type of an XPath is this, team? There are two types somewhere is writing. Two types. There is something called as an absolute XPath, and there is a relative XPath, team. Absolute XPath is basically the location right from the top of HTML tag, or and so on. What does that mean, team? If let us say, I don't know if anything will give me, I'll show you the difference of it. If I right click on hungry, this word, and say inspect, it's gone. Something else maybe I'll do. Inspect this, SVG, whatever is there, right? If I want to identify this, if I right click and say copy XPath, let us see what this will get for us. This got relative, so that's fine. Let's see what else it can get as a absolute XPath. Starting with ID root only. Okay, div. This div, let's close these divs. There you go. This is how typically it comes up, team. Whenever we look at a HTML code, and this is where you need to know a little bit about HTML. Your first opening tag will be HTML. How does a simple HTML code look, team? Oops. It starts with HTML and ends with HTML. And within that, I can write anything called the inside the body. That becomes my main holder for text. So I can say that I have H1 as a heading, H1. This is end of H1. And similarly, I can say H2. This is H2. Let's say H5. I think we have to 6. These are basically headings of different sizes, 1 being the largest and 5 being smaller, much smaller than that. Now this becomes a simple HTML code, team. Whenever we save such a file, let us go to our folder. And here, I'll just create a new text file. Sample HTML. Open this, put this code here, and I'll save this as sample HTML.html and say all files as the save as type. Now I've given this as the hypertext markup language extension, and I saved this. Now I can open this automatically in my default browser, and it shows me my first heading of size, heading of size, heading of size. The same things if I inspect and I say inspect this, it gives me the location for this. So if I right click and say copy XPath, it tells me where is it located. This is no. So it tells me how. Go to the HTML, under that go to body, go to the first H1, you'll find it. Now, if I want H2, I say the same thing and I put it like this. All right. And H5 like this. So at any point, I could do this verification quickly. Get your ID here. Take up some test that you don't mind messing up with. Change it here and say find. Doesn't it find? No. We need 2 slashes. And press XPath equals. Does it even know that this is the one? That's where Catalan, a little bit more easier on IDE front, but Can I open even this file? I don't know, team. But the same thing, if I do it on a web browser, the way we are trying to reach to an element as an absolute path, that it should be under HTML, under body, under H1, and so on. The problem will come, let us say I put something called as P here, okay, or div or P or span or anything. It's just a para, and say this is P. Now the same H1, if I can identify it using this, it would change. Why? Because now I have to say HTML body H1 body slash P slash H1. And that is where I can get to this specific section of it. So your absolute path that is guiding you takes you to the location from the top of it. I put a few shortcuts, team. This was nice. I just saw them. I thought I'll quickly show it to you also. Difference between absolute and relative. Now, what is a relative path, team? And here are a few samples. See, for example, this is an absolute path. What does it mean? Go to HTML, go to body. What does div5 mean, team, in this case? In this case, div5 means there's the fifth div element. And that is where we will spend a whole day on mastering xPath, team, where we look at not only this. Let me minimize everything once. I don't need this right now. Yes, I'm here. I need this. Element identification. And then comes your relative xPath, team. I wanted to write something in day 3. Because I want to also get the JPAC and other members to be able to attend this. We will do this as a very large webinar. Now, div elements that you're seeing, that we saw in this file here, which one were we analyzing? Here, is basically saying is the fifth div. How does it happen? In a very simple layman term, I'll show you here, team. Okay. Div is like just a division where we are trying to put sections into our page. Okay. This is my first div. Okay. And I'll just say, oops, why am I doing it here? Open with Notepad so that way I can edit. Okay, so this is under para, this is div, and I say div1. Different elements, team, each of them, so I'll just separate them. All right. So this is div2, this is div3, div4. Now, as soon as I say HTML, now for this HTML code that you're seeing on the right, on the left side, if I say HTML slash, first one is body, team, because that is where it's all starting from, right? Oops. So we say slash body. Now within body, where do I want to go? I don't want to go to para. I want to go to the div, but not the first one. I want to go to the fourth one. And that's when I say div in square brackets. That's the fourth one that I'm going to. I believe it starts with 1. Yes. So it will be the fourth one. And you are able to point to this content here. So whatever you write here will get picked up by this specific identification. Now this is okay if anytime, let us say, if even they include something like a simple span or a class around it. All right. Then what will happen? This has to change. This will not work as is anymore. Now what will it be, team? It will be slash span and then only one div under it. So it doesn't matter if there's, now these are irrelevant. How your HTML code gets divided into each element, where does it belong to at the end of the body or HTML overall. That is one way of identifying theme. Now, what is the other way of identifying the same things? Is your relative XPath, where we tell it to be relative to a specific location element. It is always pointing to a specific element theme, like HTML tag. I want it to, look at only input elements, look at only ID elements or buttons or hyperlinks. We are not looking for everything. I'm not saying it go here, go there, go there. I'm just giving it the address. It'll go and find for that. This is your primary difference that you have, team. Now, what you see here is basically saying any HTML tag, ID should be answers. Under that, there is a first heading of size 2. Under that, there is a hyperlink first one. You pick that. That is how it is identified. These two teams, we will have to become very, very experts at eventually, and that we will master. All right. How do we identify both of them? Now, there were a few nice cheat sheets that I saw that will help us to go through. Automate planner. Okay, one more I saw. Let me show you. Where are they? Here. XPath cheat sheet, locators table. I'll share some of these things, team. So here's the locators table. I've really not gone in depth, but looks to be a nice PDF file. I'll put this into our Google Drive so I can share everything with you. I also saw one here. There you go. Very simple, team. Now that we saw the basic structure of HTML code element identification, let us look at different selectors. And it can be more of a reference for you as you go along. All right. This is your heading, team, H1. So if you just say //H1, it is enough. You'll get there. Div UL is list, team. List items. You have each of LI is list item, and UL is what's that? HTML. What list? HTML UL tag. UL is unordered list. Yeah, there you go. And then there is an ordered list. Each of them within it are list items. These are simple, small things, team, that you don't have to master right away, but just be exposed, because as you go along, you're testing web applications, you need to know what they're built about. Okay. Different attributes, ID, class, input type, for is there, see here, href, relatives, and all that we will look into, team. What happens when there are more than one? First child, nth child. So the last child. Here are very nice ones. As we expose ourselves to good applications, these will help us to quickly be able to figure them out. Once you have the basic fundamentals, you can build on this, team. All right. Now, these are your two experts. Now, let's take an overall look, team, where we are, what are we trying to do. Selenium IDE, from a perspective of what is its potential and scope, what is it that we will use and how important is it? We need to look into that, team. We have to really talk about automation testing overall, and why do we have to even move to WebDriver or any other programming language, Java, C#, Python, Ruby, whatnot. And what are automation frameworks? Where do they come in? I want to take a quick couple of minutes and give you that layout, where we are, what we've done so far, and where we have to go. I hope I can draw it neatly. Let me try, if I have a small pen. Sorry, touch screen. Take a pen. Maybe different color. Right. So, team, your base to anything is your manual testing. Always remember, right? That's gonna predominantly cover everything. Your manual testing, your web services, your backend, or your database related, UI, performance, everything. Overall, your manual testing is your portfolio of what we can do. When we talk about automation testing, and let us say that we have chosen to go with the Selenium world of it. All right. Now, Selenium, as you know, has different components to it. You have your IDE that we saw so far. And then we have, okay, your Selenium WebDriver that we are yet to see. And then there are more advanced concepts about how we do it around a grid execution. When it comes to deploying tests across a network of systems that you can remotely control and connect with and say, please run the tests here, please run the tests there. IDE is a simple browser plugin team. It is great to help you identify elements. So element identification, it really does assist you in. To get you started with a flow, you can write tests, but your challenge is coming in multiple fold. What is it, team? What if I want to change this data? I have to go and change it somewhere. What if I want to put any logic? If this happens, do that. If that happens, do this. What if I want to be able to store this target somewhere nicely reusable? Because let us say now verify text, I'm doing it here. I may use the same element called verify this error message called invalid email address in 100 other tests. What will I do? Selenium IDE does not have the capability, and that is why it becomes a very, very clear no that, okay, nothing beyond this. What is most important for you is to get to the XPath team. All right. Once you know the element identification, how to do it using XPath, most of your job with IDE is kind of accomplished. Commands are very simple and easy, team. That should not affect much. Now comes the Selenium WebDriver. How is this different? What Selenium WebDriver does is between Selenium and the application under test, whatever we're testing, right? It becomes a good communicator, just exactly like IDE does. IDE also sends across commands and works on the browser. But there are a few things Selenium WebDriver does. Number one is it brings a whole block of programming interface. What can programming languages do, team? It can control the flow, saying that, okay, do this first, do that first. It can have decision making. Like, okay, if this happens, do it this, go in, turn right. If this happens, turn left. You can decide what to do. Hundreds of situations can be put into it. You could help with streamlining it in a much more framework-oriented manner. So then within WebDriver comes, again, two ways, team, of writing programs, right? One is to write everything in the, when I say IDE or programming language, I'm just going to refer it to as Java code, okay? And for each test case, we write one Java code. Okay, so one TC, at least one Java. And you know that at the end of it, I have 500 test cases. I have 500 sets of Java code that are ready to be executed. All right, phenomenal effort, great. But then it can get extremely complicated to manage and always code level. But how do we write those? Simple, one test case at a time, repeat it 500 times. That's going to be your project one. But then comes the amazing way of doing it through automation frameworks. What are they? How are they applicable? Once we start with a data driven, where we say, you know what, no, I will take the data and put it externally. And then I get to keyword driven, where I said, you know what, my steps are usually constant. I will recreate the steps of sign up as entering mobile, enter name, enter email, enter password, verify text. These 5 steps combined into one keyword, reusable. So I can reuse it every time. That becomes your keyword. Then comes your page factory or page object model, where it says, all this is good. What are the elements that are there for each page? What is it that I can do with them? What I can do with the elements, I know. But at least how do I identify them? Let's create a map and put it somewhere. And then we talk about how do we take this into the build cycle of CI/CD. All right. How do we do build deployments, and how do we work in Cognizant with the IT development team? How do we use tools like Jenkins, Mavens? How do we use GitHub? Where do we use AWS? How do those come into picture? That becomes your CI/CD portion team. That will be your level 3 as to how you go about into a larger extent. Now that we understood, let me close this. Why do I need this? Maybe I'll change the color. Now that we understood team, the crux of the whole thing started with IDE, understanding how to start interacting with the browser. We will now have to move to WebDriver. Now to move to WebDriver, we have multiple programming language options. In this batch, I'm going to stick with Java, JUnit, and TestNG. We will also explore what are the differences between each of them, which ones to use when, what are annotations, and so on. All right. And we're going to use Eclipse IDE. So these two things, team, I would want you to start downloading and get ready for the day 3. Pretty much straightforward, eclipse.org. I will guide you with all these 3 things that you require. First, click on eclipse.org, go to downloads. I'm going to put it in notes as well. This, actually, I'll write it into a new document. Team, all of you with me? Any questions so far, please? Selenium. And team, the element identification just started. Once we go into WebDriver, we'll do so much around it. Selenium WebDriver Eclipse JRE installation instructions. All right. So first team, download Eclipse. Take the latest version, team. You'll definitely see one latest version that is there with it. Get Eclipse IDE 2018-19. The one that I am using, Eclipse, is Neon. Still an older version, but there are much more new ones come. So you can download the 64-bit, whatever you see that is there for you. Let's see what are the other versions that are there. I don't want the new one right now. What is the version that you tried, team? Any of you? And then we have Selenium, hq.org, and I have Java, JRE download. And we have the Selenium server standalone. Jar files, we will get it later, team. Let's get Java first. Let me fill this document up and send it to you offline so you can do these instructions. Go to oracle.com, Java runtime environment. This is the latest one. Once you accept and download the ones for your machine. 64-bit, mostly. If you have a Mac, that should be fine too. Some have Photon, Oxygen, that's fine. Yeah. Now wait, what else do we have there? You need Java development JDK, I think should be coming within it. Let's see, you don't need something specific. Where is Java development JDK also? I think it should be sufficient. JDK includes JRE. I think there should be, let's see, team. At least for any what it is. For team, for anything to do in terms of, how do I say, mention this? Okay. Anything to do in terms of any runtime environment is more than enough. But for development, we'll see if this should be fine once we get into that. We also need Selenium server download, team, server files. And Once you do this, I will start Eclipse installation instructions. How do we start Eclipse? How do we launch and keep going on? All right. So this will definitely be an old workspace. I'll quickly switch it into the new one. And this is where we will focus now from day 4. Team, I'm open to questions. We have the 15 minutes for any Q&A that you have. So when we get back on day 3, team, that tomorrow, day after it will be, I want to ensure that you all listen to me carefully for one session on how to get things started. The whole intent for our day 4 is day 3, right? One, set up Eclipse with Selenium. Okay. Eclipse IDE. Create and execute first Selenium plus Java JUnit. Both Selenium first WebDriver program from Eclipse. All right. Then expand the test case. That's going to be day 14. All right. Any questions, team? Let's see. So for those of you who already have Eclipse set up and so on, all you will do is create a new project. All right. So you'll say file, new Java project. And like I called it, I'll call it as SLT_NOV 2018. Okay. Or I'll just say project 1. We will have about 4 projects overall. So we'll create project 1. In here, we will go about creating our first Java program and we'll start putting. Once this is done, we'll do another data-driven framework, another project. So create a new workspace, team. And then you can switch between your workspaces if you have multiple projects. That's easy. I will guide you on that. Once we get till here, then I will guide you with the next steps. Hi Karthik, could you please advise which OS is advantageous to practice between Windows and Mac, since I don't have a Windows system? Srinivas, Mac is absolutely fine. It shouldn't be a big challenge. Just that, you can try it on other browsers, but stick with Mac and Chrome. It should be okay. You have your Eclipse, you have everything on Mac. Shouldn't be a problem. But sometimes what happens, even like AnyArt and some of the projects that we're doing, we want to run them on Mac. Keep trying on Mac. Shouldn't be a problem. Since I don't have Windows, that's fine. How can we write XPath for anchor links? There are 2 ways, team. We can write XPath for anchor links. I've seen lot of ways and sometimes challenging also. But Chaitanya, what you could do is something like this. @href equals, put that link. That's easy. Or you'll say link text equals that link. Make sense, Chaitanya? So either this way or we do it like this, link text, whatever name that is. All right, team, I'll see you all in day 4. Okay, go back and look at what we did, team. A lot of time we've been spending on Selenium IDE and understanding. See, as long as we waste time on fixing elements, that's great learning, team. And believe me, once we get to Eclipse, we will all keep facing different kind of challenges. We have to find the solutions. We have to keep going forward. Sometimes it will take you hours to fix a solution, but that's what also makes it interesting, that you learn a lot that way. Team, that's it from my side. I'll see you all back in day 4. I'm not sure if it's going to be tomorrow or day after, one of these days, but we will be communicating back in an email. At least all the ones who have registered in the webinar, you'll all be getting the emails about it. Thank you all. Bye now. See you later. Bye all.